term of 2 years on that count as well.
Some criminals break down when they hear their fate, while others lose control completely. From courtroom collapses to shocking outbursts, these are the moments no one ever forgets. The judge's voice was calm, but the man standing in front of him was already shaking. Brandon Spencer stood in court as he learned his sentence: 40 years to life in prison. There would be no going home anytime soon.
At a 2012 Halloween party on the USC campus, the violence just 6 months after 2 Chinese students were murdered in an...
The crime went back years. A Halloween party near the USC campus. A gun. 4 people shot. Now, the moment he had feared was finally here. Before the sentence was finished, Spencer begged the judge for mercy.
Yeah, I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to portray me as.
He said he was sorry. He said he wasn't a bad person. He said he made mistakes. But the judge kept reading.
The minimum period of parole eligibility is 15 years plus 25 years of life in accordance with Penal Code Section 12022.
When the 40 years to life were spoken, Spencer snapped. He slammed his head against the table again and again. The sound echoed through the courtroom. The fight was gone. The anger was gone. All that was left was fear. He broke down in tears, his body folding forward as reality hit him. This wasn't just prison. This was his life disappearing. Some people break loudly, while others make a final decision in silence. The courtroom felt normal at first. Nothing seemed out of place. Michael Marin sat quietly as the jury reached a verdict. He had been found guilty of arson and was facing the rest of his life in prison. As the judge spoke, Marin didn't shout. He didn't cry. He didn't move. Instead, he raised his hands to his mouth. At first, no one noticed. Moments later, something was wrong. Marin began to gag and struggle, his body suddenly losing control. The calm courtroom turned into confusion. Court officers rushed toward him. Paramedics were called, but it was already too late. Within minutes, Michael Marin was dead, right there in the courtroom. Later, investigators confirmed what had happened. He had swallowed cyanide just after hearing the verdict. He chose death over life behind bars. Not every sentence ends a life instantly, but it can tear an entire family apart. The courtroom was quiet as the judge began to read the sentence. An 18-year-old girl stood frozen, listening to the words that would change her life forever. She had used a dating app to set up a robbery. That robbery ended with another teenager being shot. Now there was no going back.
We get you guilty of all 3 charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
As the judge finished reading the sentence, 20 years in prison, the reality hit all at once. Her mother collapsed to the floor. She cried out in pure pain, her screams filling the courtroom so loudly that the judge had to stop. The sound wasn't anger. It was a mother realizing she was losing her daughter for decades. The teenage girl turned toward her mother, panicking all over her face. She screamed for her mom. She begged the judge for mercy. Her voice broke as she realized no one was coming to save her. The girl could no longer stand. She broke down completely, crying uncontrollably as officers stepped in. She was escorted out of the courtroom while still crying, her mother's sobs echoing behind her. That moment wasn't about crime anymore. It was the moment an 18-year-old girl understood what forever really meant. For some, it isn't the time that breaks them. It's hearing there is no way out. At just 19 years old, he still believed there was a way out. He had shot and killed another man during a robbery. Now he was waiting to hear how much of his life he would lose.
19-year-old Shondell Jackson was facing a mandatory life term for pulling the trigger, but hoped for a chance at parole.
As the sentence was read, the room stayed quiet. Life in prison. But he didn't react right away. He was still listening for one word, parole. Then the judge said it. No chance of parole. That single sentence broke him.
Gave him life without parole, sparking the outburst.
His face changed instantly. The calm was gone. Anger rushed in. He started yelling at the judge, his voice shaking with rage. He slammed his hands down and fought against the officers moving toward him. The courtroom erupted. Chairs moved. Voices shouted. This wasn't a planned outburst. It was the moment he realized he would never walk free again.
3 family members today shouted support to him as he was led away, and one screamed at Potter's family as she left the courtroom.
As he was dragged away, he kept yelling, refusing to accept what he had just heard. At 19 years old, his future ended in a few quiet words from the judge. The next reaction wasn't loud, it was desperate. Before the judge even began, the teen was already crying. He apologized over and over, saying he loved the young boy he was accused of killing.
I didn't mean to kill Oscar. Actually, I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
In all hopes that his tears would alter the course of events, he pleaded for mercy. However, the tone changed when the judge spoke.
A 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me. End quote.
The sentence was clear: 25 years to life. The judge called him out, saying the tears could not erase what was done.
Phone call of last year from the holding center to the phone call to his mom, he might have sealed his fate.
Well, I think he did.
The crying didn't stop the verdict, and the courtroom went silent as his future was sealed. And sometimes, the moment the dream dies, the body simply gives in. He once had the world watching him, a high school basketball star with a future that looked unstoppable. Now Tony Farmer stood in a courtroom, waiting to hear how much of that future was gone.
This is 18-year-old Tony Farmer, a highly recruited high school basketball star being sentenced for his crime.
The charges were serious: robbery, assault, kidnapping his girlfriend. As the judge read each sentence, Farmer listened in silence. 2 years for one charge, 2 more years for another.
Felonious assault, a felony of the second degree. It is ordered that the defendant shall serve a term of 2 years in prison on that count.
When the judge finished 3 years in prison for kidnapping and assault, the weight finally hit him. Tony Farmer didn't yell. He didn't argue. His body simply gave out.
Of that case, the robbery, which is also a felony of the second degree, the court orders that the defendant shall serve a term of 2 years on that.
He collapsed right there in the courtroom, falling to the ground in shock. Officers rushed toward him as he lay there, clearly overwhelmed.
Count as well.
This wasn't anger. This wasn't rage. It was the moment a young man realized his dream was over.
About the sentence, he fell to the ground. Well, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison after pleading guilty to...
The athlete who once filled gyms with cheering fans now needed help just to stand. The sentence wasn't life in prison, but for him, life would never be the same. Justice was served, but the reactions were unforgettable, raw, and intense. If this shocked you, like, subscribe, and comment your jaw-dropping moment.